Datura, according to the most reliable source of information on the internet, Wikipedia, is a 9 species of highly poisonous vespertine flowering plants. Why am I telling you this? Because of this one sentence. They can be used as hallucinogens, which is the core component of the events of Datura time. The dev is fully aware of that because this game is one hell of a trip. You play as an Eastern European in alternate reality post-Soviet world somewhere in the early 90s, where after going out to a rave party and taking some new kind of pill, a neon green colored trip to the high sky, you passed out on the train and after God knows how long, you wake up in the zone. Your first conversation is with what looks like a drunk homeless guy with a bottle of never-ending vodka, but he complains it's not as good as homemade rakia. I couldn't agree more. Also, he never passed out from getting drunk. I think many people will want, maybe not, to visit the zone now. He doesn't say anything useful at first glance, but after I started writing the script, I realized he just gave us a glimpse of this world, a taste of what's to come. In other words, the zone is weird and often it doesn't make sense, but in a good way. From here the game starts properly. After finding the key to unlock the door that keeps us trapped here, we also get our first weapon, a broken pipe. Moving forward, we see a man praying to all the gods. He's quite hostile and threatens you, and he also has the key for us to continue, but he also remarks that all he needs is the green liquid and everything becomes clear. However, I didn't listen to his whole speech because I accidentally walked out of the conversation. To skip all dialogue, you simply move the character. I'm not sure if any other games use this mechanic, but I just love it. It's kinda natural to walk out and move on with your life. God knows how many times I wanted to do this in real life, but for one reason or another, I couldn't. After I tried to talk to him again, he suddenly became aggressive. I call this self-defense, Your Honor, and this is what combat looks like. But don't worry too much, you won't be using the pipe after the first 5 minutes of the game, maybe even less. Getting the key from the drunk guy gets us into a room where a woman is doing some graffiti on the wall. Her name is Alina, and you'll find out this only after the main dialogue is exhausted, but you continue to press the dialogue button. She gives us more information about the zone. There is a new drug on the street called D, probably the same one we took. It can be in a liquid or a tablet form.
It's made from a very psychoactive strain of the Datura plant.
And there it is, the plant I briefly mentioned at the beginning of the video. Once you take it, it transports you, or clipping as it's known, to the zone. Alina is clipping just for fun, to escape the real world, her shitty life. Being in the zone, you might find a new meaning to your life and alter the physical properties of this place while temporarily slowing down time. You need D to survive here, but the zombies, ghouls and the militia are at every corner waiting. She points us in the direction we need to go. Not like you have massive options, the game is linear after all. Get out of this station, go to the nearest underground entrance and into the sewers. There, at a specific spot, you need to take D and open a portal. And somehow elves are involved, although we never see one throughout the whole game, but they left us symbols to follow. Also, the militia is working for someone named X or Father X. He is the enemy of the elves, who in fact are from a parallel dimension. Quickly after this encounter, your main goal, besides finding your way home, becomes to take down Father X. This is as far as I will go with spoiling the story, but it's safe to say it becomes wild. However, I think it's not as simple as killing the bad guy. There is more nuance to the craziness. However, before I share my thoughts, I want to explore other aspects of the game. Alina says goodbye and you need to find a pistol. It's in the toilet along with D. Once you pick up Datura, you get a well-earned jump scare, not just a loud noise. I heard something like a screeching and the color on the screen changed, but I was too busy reading the text on the screen to realize what was going on. Turning left reveals I've been cornered by a Silent Hill looking monster. I panicked, I couldn't shoot. This never happened to me, I promise. And I just run away outside where I have more space to maneuver. There I managed to bludgeon it to death. Let's discuss the combat and controls. They are tightly connected. It's pretty simple honestly. You have tank controls, and as someone who never played a game using them, it took me a while to get used to them. You can play it with a keyboard only, but you have to stretch your fingers all over it. That's why I chose a controller. And it controls great. Left stick controls the character, and it feels like a tank. Right stick offers limited camera control, which I don't like much because it snaps too quickly behind the character. The left trigger auto aims, the right trigger shoots, the right bumper reloads and the left bumper sprints. You need to manage your stamina because it can leave you in a very bad situations where you will most likely die. The only thing I dislike about the controls is the lack of strafing. You understand in a minute why. You just basically run and gun, but with a bit more caution because you can easily get yourself killed. After obtaining the pistol, the pipe will never be used again. As a matter of fact, even the pistol gets replaced very quickly by the AK-47. You won't even find much ammo for him. AK will be your workhorse. The other weapons are a sniper rifle, which is your silent weapon, an RPG and a Molotov cocktail. The latter is helpful primarily when a group of enemies is after you. It's really effective at setting up an improvised flame wall that enemies walk through and burn to a crisp. However, they don't die immediately, but continue to chase you for a little while. Still, caution is advised. Also, you can set yourself on fire if you don't pay attention to your surroundings or panic, like I did a couple of times. It has a peculiar throwing mechanic, which I was never confident would land where I wanted to, so often threw one close to me to avoid wasting it. However, as I mentioned, it's most effective against multiple enemies. It's not worth wasting it on one enemy. There is no cover mechanic, and there is almost no way to avoid damage. You can take a stand next to a car or a wall and assess the situation, but that's it. I think everything surrounding the shooting is making the game more interesting. Let's be honest, the shooting is just okay. The main advantage you have is Datura. Once you take it, time slows down. The game calls it Datura time. You walk slightly faster than your usual walk and enemies shoot slower. You can actually avoid some of their shots, but mostly by pure luck or if you are far away from them. It's gratifying to mow down a dozen of enemies without taking a single hit. However, slowing down time works slightly different than what you experienced in other games. First, it doesn't regenerate in any way. You need to collect it. This makes you think about when is the right time to use it. If you run out, you have to deal with the consequences of your actions, and this could be devastating for you. Second, you can still take a lot of damage. It's not overpowering. As I said, you often stay out in the open. When it comes to fighting the soldiers using automatic weapons, most of the time you are the one that shoots first and not giving them a chance to deal damage. This doesn't mean this happens every time, but once you get to the militia with the RPG and the APCs, it's impossible not to take damage. I especially hate the APCs. They have extreme rapid fire, and even with sprinting, it's almost impossible to avoid their shots. Can detect you from the other side of the map in some cases, and to destroy them you have to stay out in the open, take damage just to be able to shoot them while using the Datura. If you're out of it, it's not even guaranteed that you even survive. There is no other way. In some levels you can shoot from outside of the field of view and destroy it without locking onto it, but that's very rare because more often than not there are too many obstacles to have a clean shot. Maybe if I switch off auto aim it will be easier, but guess what? You need to quit the level to access the options. To be honest, you don't need to get into the options often, but it's still a minor annoyance. To be frank, it adds a lot of tension trying to navigate between obstacles, collect ammo and get a clean shot. However, perhaps tweaking the APCs slightly, such as slowing down their fire rate while taking the Datura, would be a bit more fair. Another unfair thing is how enemies always seems to anticipate your moves. They know where you are. Here is an example. On some levels it's recommended that you use only the sniper rifle as it comes with a silencer. Using any other weapon will trigger everyone on the level, which means they know where you are at any point. There is a condition you need to meet. If you don't, there will be consequences. So far so good. But why, when I kill everyone with the sniper rifle, are there enemies just waiting for me to blow off my face without alerting them? It's not just an isolated case, it's a constant. The only thing you can try avoiding taking damage is using the Datura, which is a waste on a single enemy, but the result, more often than not, is you taking damage first, which becomes annoying. This leads to trial and error approach, memorizing the positions of every single enemy, and some levels proved frustrating. Often I felt I could never get past a particular part, try after try, and I'm still stuck. However, with every attempt I managed to go a little further, making progress, familiarizing myself with the level layout. I never gave up. I might take a break from the game for a while, but I always come back to it. As the title of the video says, it was a love-hate relationship. It has an addictive quality. You want to overcome the roadblock, and I can say it was satisfying every time I've done it. And most of the levels are very short once you know what to do. There are some I've beaten in 3 minutes. I understand why people like Souls-like games so much. I need to make something clear. All this difficulty is by design, not for the sake of it. The game is made to be nostalgic in more than one way. It was created to evoke all your memories from the PSX era, for better or worse, if you had one at that time. I didn't, but I can still see the appeal for that era of gaming. I enjoy my time with this game. For such a small game, the enemy variety is decent. Soldiers with machine guns, sniper rifles, RPGs, APCs, the most annoying one, but at least they are stationary, and a couple of creatures. Some are moving slow, others fast. They offer a decent challenge, but also like to get stuck at the level geometry, especially cars. I'm not complaining. I abuse every mistake they made and punish them. Oh, if you don't like spiders, I suggest skipping the game. There is an entire level in a cave full of them, and they are big. In a couple of levels, the game really likes to catch you off guard and spawn many of the fast-moving enemies. They really managed to stress me out, especially the last underground level where you have to worry not just about them. As I said, those levels lean more towards horror and tension. Great stuff. Bosses are okay, different attack patterns and some additional enemies to back them up. You probably die a couple of times before figuring out how best to deal with them, but if you have enough Datura, you melt through their health like a hot knife through butter. And this makes them a cakewalk. Honestly, with these controls and how relentless some can be with their attacks, I'll take it after what it took me to reach them. Speaking of levels, for the most part, they are linear. There is minimal exploration. There might be a deviation from the road ahead where you can find some goodies, but they are not vital to your progress. Half of the levels are just rectangles, but what sets them apart is the layout and the theme. The earliest example, and the one I like, is this level. On the left, you have cars that will shield you from gunshots, but also have health items and ammo lying around. On the right side, you have two burned bosses to protect you from the APC, an enormous statue of a human holding an axe, food shacks, parked cars from Soviet times, and a back alley. In the middle is this weird looking playground with some benches, and it all looks like a war zone. Gunshots in the distance, burned vehicles, soldiers on patrol. It feels dystopian. And you have options to approach it. Here is the kicker. It's not necessary to kill everyone. Some levels require you to do it, but this is not one of them. All you need is to grab the key while avoiding the APC and they go to the back alley. But if you feel adventurous, you might try to collect all the ammo around the area. You're going to die probably, but hey, it's your choice. There is a detail you might miss in this level. There is a massive statue of a person holding an axe, which is clearly made to glorify Father X. If you stand in front of the statue with your back to it, you clearly see your end goal, the Father X Citadel, despite at this point not knowing it yet. There are other statues similar to this on the overground levels. I was more exploratory at the earliest levels, checking if there were any secrets, there aren't, how the AI would react. I just wanted to see what the game has to offer. Once you understood how the game works, it becomes much easier to predict where enemies will be hidden, from where they will jump at you, and how to deal with the issues I mentioned. Then the game will click. That's what happened with me. Not all levels are rectangles, some are squares. Just kidding. My favorite ones are all underground levels where the game turns into a horror title, which is part of the appeal for me. They are the ones for whom the absence of music feels most fitting. The first one you play through is seriously scary. You start with the flickering lights, move to a partially man-made cave with very little to no light, and you have to use the lighter you have to move around. It doesn't have a wide reach to illuminate the surroundings, which makes it 10 times scarier, but it's better than nothing. And then you hear a monster screeching. I need a new pants. You can use Datura to illuminate the level, but that's the primary purpose for it in those levels. You don't slow down time. Besides the first underground level, this was absolutely useless. I didn't even bother activating it. Some have gimmicks to make them interesting. At a later level, what appears to be a lab, there is a poisonous gas. Must first pick up a gas mask and find a new air canisters constantly as you are continually running out of air. So you have to move fast to find your way around, deal with the chainsaw wielding maniacs, fast moving creatures, and depleting oxygen and stamina. I forgot to breathe at this level. It was that tense. But it still managed to frustrate me because of the lack of direction and the constant pressure. As I said, love-hate relationship. What makes the game a bit of an uncanny valley is the moving and wrapping textures of the buildings. This is intentional by design, I think, but if it's not, it still does a great job making me trippy. Combining it with the premise of the character ending up in a zone after getting high, it feels quite trippy. I love it. This is not a major spoiler as it's already on the Steam store page, but before the final boss, you drive a tank through the city streets. The gameplay feels almost the same, but the difference is that you drive a tank with tank controls. It's fun, I like the idea, but it runs at 10 FPS in some sessions. I use an old PC, but I still easily exceed the system requirements by a significant margin. I have no idea why it runs so bad. What I found surprising is the game has voice acting, and even more surprising, it's decent. It's not much and the protagonist is silent, but all characters are quite unique and love to drink. Tell me you are Eastern European without telling me.
Welcome to the Red Star. You look like shit. Tough day? It may not look like much, but I run a top-notch establishment here. They don't call it the Green Demon for nothing. So, let us get you shit-faced and ready for victory. Jivoli!
Datura caught me off guard how challenging it can be. It did frustrate me often and for a good reason. It took me some time, but I realized everything is doable with a bit of patience. Plus, the game has many ammo and health items spread around the levels to help you, and there is a bit of item management involved. Depending how good you do at any level will determine how prepared you'll be for the next one and so on. Every stat stays the same when you move on. Also, the game offers enough variety to not seem monotonous, mostly in the underground levels where even the atmosphere changes. It's tough and most of the time fair. It's coded in nostalgia. The most obvious one is the design of the game and its graphic style. It's meant to evoke memories of bygone era where the game design mentality was still holding partially to its arcade roots in terms of difficulty. I think it's also a look back at the 90s Balkans. You find a TV and washing machine and the character says, "I feel like rich Eastern European." I still remember those times and the news report of no food in the shops and in the background empty shelves. Wars on a smaller scale were raging at that time. In-game there is a literal mass grave in a camp overtaken by the military. All the statues are designed to look like something out of the Soviet era, the deliberate chosen name of Father Rex that could be easily be replaced by any dictator or politician who after the fall of the Berlin Wall from a communist turned into all about democracy, portraying themselves as a leader of a nation. Attack on the building symbolism of power, taking down what is perceived as evil, starting quote-unquote new era. I see some parallels with the Balkans in all aspects of the game. I won't go deeper than this because I don't think I'm smart enough to indulge in such a serious discussion. If you put aside this, the game is still worth it if you are looking for an old school game that will challenge you. Even for someone like me who never grew up with playing any of the 5th generation consoles, I managed to find enjoyment in its wild premise, decent level design, challenging gameplay, weird story and meta commentary. What's not to love? 90s era game involving elves from a parallel dimension, pills that slow down time, portals and other oddities. There's some stuff I avoid spoiling because they're fun to experience. They're mostly connected to some levels, NPCs, bosses, etc. I recommend the game, but be aware of the challenges waiting for you. But there is one mystery left unsolved. How does a British man ended up as a bartender in an Eastern European bar?
And here, let's drink to your success. Now go give him hell.